Yo, proverbial boy here. I just got back from the Miami Winter Summit with Owen, Julian, all the rest. And previously to that, I got back from New Orleans, where I ran a 10-person program. And I got a lot of insights here from those experiences that I kind of wanted to share with you real quick on a live here. And one of those is about a question that I get again and again and again. This is a question that I get on a weekly basis, hell, possibly even on a daily basis. And it goes something like this. Jeff, I understand when you tell me that in order to take, or rather to gain a massively improved level of social intelligence, I'm going to need to do massive approaches. I'm going to need to have a massive repetition of social interaction. I understand that. Or at least they intellectually understand it. They claim to understand that fact. But it's just so hard. It's so hard. I go out and I find I'm incapable of actually taking the action. Something is preventing me. Do you have any tips to motivate me to take that massive action? Do I have to if I want to see a result? Well, this is kind of something that I've personally struggled with, not in this area any longer, but in other areas of my life where there's some sort of seemingly insurmountable task at hand or a long-term goal that's clearly going to take a protracted effort over months or even years to achieve the desired result. And it just seems like this Herculean thing, and it seems very difficult to take the first steps in order to begin that journey. How do you start? How do you take the massive action? Well, personally for me, as I said, this is something that I've been struggling with for decades. This idea of making things out to be more difficult than they actually are in your head. Like, this is a problem you might have. You make things harder than they actually are. And subsequently, looking back, after you've actually done that thing, you're like, wow, okay, it was hard, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it was. It was maybe more monotonous at best. I should have done this years ago. What the hell was I thinking? So the question remains, though, how do you actually get yourself to start? Well, something my buddy Owen said to me a while back really resonated with me. He said, sometimes you just got to punch through the wall. Punching through the wall, that's going to hurt, but it ultimately hurts less than sitting there ruminating over how much it's going to hurt and not taking the action. Example of this, let's say you got some work to do. Let's say it's not even some huge goal. Let's say it's a relatively mundane task. It's something you just kind of you're not looking forward to. So but you know you got to do it. You know you got to do it. So what do? You sit around and you go through, you look at Reddit. Maybe you scroll through TikTok. Maybe you put on some Netflix. Maybe you clean the house. Maybe you check the price of Bitcoin. Perhaps there's a loop of essentially pointless things to occupy you. But in the back of your mind, there's like, I got to do this. I got to do this. The cumulative effect psychologically of not taking that action and kind of languishing in that zone where you know you got to do it, that to me is far more psychologically damaging and causes more stress, more cortisol levels in your head and in your body than if you had simply sacked up and knocked the damn task out, right? So once you arrive at that realization, that makes things a bit easier. Now, if you're talking about dating or meeting people, and you're out there and you're finding it difficult to actually motivate to go and speak to people, that's a whole different thing entirely. I mean, well, it's similar, but there's an additional layer of complexity because now you may have various anxiety triggers around social humiliation that come into play that can sort of hijack your RAS, that can sort of hijack your cognition, your intellect, to the point where you will not be able to, once you are in the grip of that anxiety state, you will not be able to take action. Furthermore, you will not even be able to see or process information that would contradict you being in that state. We had a dude on program a couple weeks ago, last month, who had a pretty good interaction, he was in there, it was on a Sunday. It was like some Sunday fun day people. He goes up, he sits down with them. They're laughing, they think he's cool. He's like chilling. He's like, appears witty and charming. They're enjoying the interaction. And then he comes up and he's like, okay, because the time ran out on the program and we had to go debrief. And I'm like, how'd it go? He's like, whoa, it went great. They loved me. I'm like, you know what you should do? Like right before we go, just go back and say, hey, before I leave, I gotta ask for a kiss. Just go for it. Go for the kiss. And he immediately snaps into like paralysis. Like you can see it. He's in the grip. Tension grips him. Physical tension grips him. He becomes rigidly upright, and you can see he's in the grip of that anxiety. Nothing you could tell him is going to make him take that action. And my son and I were telling, look, what is the worst thing that's going to happen if you go back and do that? They liked you. We saw it. If you go back, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I'll tell you. The worst thing that's going to happen, you'll be like, I want a kiss. They'll be like, no, I'm good. If they say that, but I'm sad. But I'm sad. I need a kiss. Like, just do it playfully. And at worst case scenario, they're like, oh, no, thanks, dude. Good to meet you, though. That's literally the worst thing that's going to happen. However, saying this to this guy, you could see him like processing that intellectually. However, again, the RAS is not allowing. It has been hijacked by the anxiety triggers and that state of anxiety that he's gripped by, and he can't process that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that logically he knows that's the case. What his body is telling him is when he goes up and does that, they're going to take a pint glass and just smash it over his head and begin screaming. And then like dudes are going to rappel down from the ceiling and like beat the hell out of him with like truncheons and then take him to the gulag or something. Like that's literally what his physiology is telling him. So you've got to get to a level of awareness where you can cool those triggers off. Right now, traditionally, again, from the best of our understanding, we can't really eradicate fear triggers, but what we can do is we can cool those triggers off. We can change our relationship with those triggers. So we're aware of the stimuli that typically will result in those anxiety triggers being ignited and gripping you. And when you're in the presence of those stimuli, you can begin to train incompatible behaviors so they will not take hold, to prevent them from taking hold proactively. Now, on a program, it's kind of funny because I had a student on the mentoring who we do accountability on this program. And so I said, what do you want to be held accountable for till the next call? It's like, I want to go out and I want to do five approaches. 5 approaches. I'm like, okay, five approaches. So I had another student on the same mentoring, and this guy, he had taken the program with us in NOLA. And I said, how many approaches do you think you did over the course of the 5 days we were out in New Orleans? And he's like, I don't know, like 200. Like, see, this 5 approaches, it's insufficient. This shit is insufficient. In order to gain a noticeably improved level of social intelligence, you need to have a mass repetition of social interaction. And again, because essentially what you're dealing with here, what you're trying to deal with here is you're trying to basically you gain an emotional leverage. Now, what is emotional leverage? Old Tony Robbins concept, if you followed this for any length of time, you probably heard me talk about this, but for the newcomers, basically, we move away from pain and we move towards pleasure. So ostensibly on a program, you have these guys who they want to hook up. They want the people they're talking to view them in a favorable light. They want the woman to find them attractive. They want to get a phone number. They want to ostensibly go home with someone, right? Those are things they want. However, simultaneously, they want to avoid rejection, loss of validation, embarrassment, possible confrontation. So whatever you want more is what's going to end up manifesting. And clearly at that stage in their development, most of these clients, they clearly want to avoid the negative outcomes more than they want to proactively move towards the positive outcomes. So again, that's what's going to manifest. They're not going to get rejected. Why? Because they're simply not going to take action. Or if they do take action, they're not going to own intention, and they're not going to attempt to move it forward. So there will be no rejection. There will be a couple of minutes of polite conversation followed by nice to meet you, and they'll politely excuse themselves. So the thing, when we're talking about cooling triggers off through extinction therapy, that's typically how it's been done. When we're talking about phobias, like a fear of heights, a fear of snakes, you would slowly expose yourself to the frightening situation again and again until you kind of cool that trigger off. Now, that doesn't mean the trigger is magically uninstalled. It's still there. But again, you can cool it off to an extent where it doesn't immediately grab hold of you and rule your life. And then over time, through small wins, you can actually change your identity, which helps you overcome those inherent fears of social humiliation. So how do I get somebody to gain emotional leverage on a boot camp? Well, first of all, they approach so much that they see what they're doing doesn't fucking work. Because it's one thing to intellectually understand that if you just go up and say, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? That's not going to work. They're not going to turn around and magically love you, especially in a busy nightlife environment. Most people watching this would say, I intellectually understand that that's unrealistic. However, those very same people come on the program, and then what happens? Then they end up saying that. They go up and say, what's up? Or, hey, I like your dress. Or, how's your night? And then be silent, expecting that the people are going, oh, thanks for asking. My night's going great. Who are you? Like that, they know that's not going to happen, yet they still do it, right? Because there's a difference between knowledge and knowing. They intellectually understand, but it's not until they say that and feel in real time the disdain emanating off the other person, the revulsion, the disinterest, and feel how that affects them in real, again, four-dimensional meat space. That's when they're like, okay, it really doesn't work. Like, I think that they kind of harbor a little hope in the back of their head that, well, maybe it does, maybe it actually will work. Of course, you could also say, well, then they don't know what the hell does work. So that's an important part of boot camp too, is showing you technique that actually does have a tendency to be more well received. And then how to, again, embody a vibe that's more compelling, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot that goes into it. But when they do that and they get that confirmation, that real world confirmation that it doesn't work, that's the impetus to change. And especially if they do that like 50 or 60 times and they get the same blow off every single time, maybe then that's enough, that causes the scales to tip, and that gives them the impetus to maybe try something else, right? Because you need irrefutable, visceral proof that shit you're doing does not work, right? And furthermore, at that point, you might start to change. So this guy, saying, I'm going to go out and do 5 approaches this weekend. How long is it going to take him to get that irrefutable evidence physiologically that he needs to change? How long is it going to take the scales? It's going to take forever. On a boot camp, you might be, like this one guy, you might do hundreds of approaches over the course of a weekend. Or in that case, it was a 5-day program, and it was on Bourbon Street, so like the volume is extremely high. But you're going to do dozens and dozens on a given night, most likely. Unless you're already advanced, in which case we can start to hone in. You're probably not, going to be bouncing off the walls like that necessarily, but because you've already kind of seen the patterns emerge. But for a novice, you're going to have to, there's no way to get around that. There's absolutely no way around it. You can't write a check for experience. So, again, that's why out of boot camp, you're going to approach as much as, like that guy going out by himself, it might take him 6 months to gain that evidence. It might take him 6 months to get through an emotional leverage point, to do enough interactions where he actually now believes that he needs to change. So that will, again, we're there to encourage you enthusiastically to take action. Of course, another thing that I always say is, like, So this is what the guy says. So OP says, just right, but aren't so many of us already thinking we suck and what we try won't work? No, again, you missed the beginning. Yeah, you might think that, yet when you go out, you will still do the same dumb shit. Because something in your back of your mind, well, maybe it will. Maybe if I go up and say, what's up, it will work. Like, and intellectually, you know. These guys, they know. I tell them, especially, even if they don't know, at the very beginning of the program, I tell them in no uncertain terms. That, okay, what do you typically introduce yourself with? Oh, I go, what's up? Now that won't work. Don't do that. Here, try to do this instead. Yet, they still do it. Because again, I think intellectually they understand, but they don't have that real world visceral proof that comes from feeling the disdain come off of the other person and the disinterest as they turn away when you say what's up. So it's at that point that they'll start to change. Now, in terms of you saying we need proof we can actually make something work, again, that's what the instructor is there for, to demonstrate in front of you almost immediately. And you'll see, oh shit, this is actually not a fiction. These guys do this for real, and they can do it on demand. It's not like, oh, maybe 1 time out of 10, the instructor will have a good interaction. It's like very, very consistent. And moreover, you'll see, okay, well, they're not really doing anything radically different than what I'm doing, but there are some very distinct differences, and they're more consistent, right? In terms of creating like I'm not doing anything that you are physically incapable of doing. So in order to gain a noticeably improved level of social intelligence, like I said, or noticeably improved level of charisma, let's just say, you got to understand and act upon a couple of concepts. Number one, you've got to understand what are the results you want to have. What kind of results do you want to have? How do you quantify a good result? Okay, I want to be able to go up and have people respond well. I want to be able to date this kind of person. I want to be able to do X, Y, Z. And number two, you need to have a clear-eyed understanding of the demands that are going to be put upon you by the types of results you want to have. So again, if you want to go up and capture people's attention in a loud nightlife environment and have them think you're awesome and pay attention to you and reciprocate your romantic affection, what you're currently doing is not going to fucking work, most likely. And you need to have a clear-eyed understanding of what is required, okay? What will be required to actually get those results. That's what we're talking about here. In order to do that, you need a mass repetition of, you got to do a lot of approaches. Number three, you need to understand how your current negative social counter conditioning is currently inhibiting you from exhibiting the behaviors and taking the actions that would get you those results. Because look, I don't even get mad. Like I used to get mad at the students. Like, why are they doing the same dumb things? Why aren't they doing the stuff I'm suggesting to them? Well, it's not even that they don't want to. I don't get mad at them anymore. I get mad at the inhibition and the conditioning, if anything. Of course, at a certain point, you do have to sack up and punch through the wall and actually try on some new shoes and wear in those painful new shoes. But, you know, I stopped getting mad because it's like one of my assistants said a couple of years back. He said, Jeff, you can't care about this more than they do. Like, yeah, I'm there to coach. I'm your friend. I'm there to encourage you. I'm there to, give you guidance and all of that. But at a certain point, I can't care about this more than you do. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not here to give you motivation. If you come on a program, you need to show up already motivated. I cannot give you motivation. I don't care to. Because it's not really plausible, quite frankly. If you are not highly motivated to learn this already, there's nothing that I can do to convince you otherwise. And you're going to be the same punk-ass little bitch, for lack of a better term, that goes to the club, stands there with a drink against his chest, and sees all the girls passing by and wishes that he could, speak with them. But yet there's something that's blocking me. There's something that's blocking me. I'm paralyzed. I can't take action. That's just going to continue. You got to punch through the wall. You got to decide enough's enough and resolve to do whatever is necessary. Like how long will it take? How many approaches do I have to do? As long as it is required. As many as you need. How long is it going to take? As long as it takes. What's the alternative? Keep being a chode? For me, I arrived at a point of emotional leverage where I was like, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how much of a fool I have to make of myself. Irrelevant. You know, a couple months ago, I was trying to diet down. I needed to lose about like 10, 15 pounds. I lost a little bit, but it simply, what I was doing wasn't sufficient. The diet and the minimal gym I was doing wasn't sufficient. Like, it's time to take more severe measures. Started going to the gym twice a day. That worked. Why? I arrived at a point where I'm like, okay, I don't care what the hell it takes. You're going to go to the gym twice a day for as long as it takes. Because this shit, no mas. No more. And yes, is it difficult? Is it physically taxing to do that? Yeah, who cares? Irrelevant. Once you get into a place of momentum, you no longer care. This is why many of the best people, they take multiple boot camps. My buddy Derek took 8. I got 2, actually I have 3 guys right now who are on a 5 boot camp plan. And that's actually a new thing I've been offering. If you sign up for 3 boot camps, I'll give you 2 for free. Now, why would you want to take 5? You could spread that over a year. You could stack them one after the other, because that full immersion is going to give you that massive amount of action that is required to burn this into your being, and you will never have to think about this ever again. Make this the year that you immerse yourself in this completely and get it handled, as the marketing materials say. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like one of those cliched marketing phrases. Make this the year you get this handled. Why the hell not, though? Get it handled. Unlike fitness, once you learn this, if you stop it, you could take a hiatus. You could get married. You can come back 10 years after, get divorced, jump back into the game, and it'll always be a home for you. Yeah, you might have to shake off a little bit of rust, but once you learn these understandings of communication and how you communicate and how other people respond to that and how that interplay happens, once you've internalized those understandings, they never go away, because communication is so much a part of our daily lives, right? And of course, preaching to the choir here most likely, but the benefits are far ranging, go far beyond, the mere dating stuff that we started out with. Obviously, there's ramifications for business, there's ramifications for navigating office politics, with your family relationships, your friends, etc., random people you encounter on the street. Right, a million reasons you want to learn this stuff. So anyway, I am doing math. You can see in the description here my schedule. I'm going to be in San Diego this weekend, 3/25, coming back to SF for April 1st, doing a boot camp here, and then I'm going out to Austin, Texas. Tampa, Florida is a new one on the schedule. Never been to Tampa before. It's always excited to be to a place I've never been before, which those things get littler and those places get fewer and fewer, so I'm excited for that. You can check out the entire schedule in the description. And like I said, offering this, it's almost a stupid deal. Buy 3 boot camps, get 2 free. That's a $7,000 discount. All right. So again, if you want to take advantage of that, it's probably not even profitable for us. We didn't really think this out too well, but hey, you know what? I love doing these. It's my calling. I don't really care. Go to jeffyinperson.com. You can check out the schedule in the description below, and hopefully I'll see you on one or more of these programs soon. All right? Just wanted to make a quick live here today, and I shall see you next time. Peace.